Good evening, all. Okay, so in last session, actually, I was stopped with implicit objects, right? So I'll continue with the implicit objects along with the JSP directives. Okay. Let me check what are all the activities done from my end. This is for the JSP, right? Let me check for the implicit object. So it's with response. Okay. Let me continue with the implicit objects. So I'll be giving 2 more objects, not for all. Not for all in the sense when I discussed about the directives, then I'll cover these implicit object together with the directives. Okay, and right. So we have seen. I guess it's about response we have done, right? So now we'll discuss about. Right. So we'll have one concept of config. Okay, config, which is same as the solid context and config. Do you all remember? So global, parameter initialization for a servlet. Okay, either we can initialize those parameters as a globally or locally. Locally in the sense the parameters which we initialize, those are visible or accessible only for a particular servlet, right? Fine. So now we'll see one activity for you know this is for config. So I'm creating config folder. Okay, so in this, let me create a JSP file. Sorry. So JSP file as I'm writing here as a config file. Okay, and finish. Now I guess I don't have a web.xml. So I have to create that web.xml. Now, why we needed the web.xml? Because if we want to read some parameters, related to a servlet, then obviously we have to pass servlet configuration, right? Okay, let's take one web.xml file. Yes, I don't have here also. Right, it is there. So let me copy this, web.xml in this web banner because I have not added deployment descriptor for this project. Okay, so copy, paste. Fine. So now let's move ahead with the config and the one which I created as a config file. So now what I'll do. Okay, before calling those parameters, let's describe, in web.xml. Let's take this. I'm going to remove this all files in the sense welcome file list. So here, first of all, I'm going to define, servlet, but I've not created any servlet in my class, right? I mean, in SRC folder. So servlet name. So the servlet name, let's take config demo. Okay, so config demo is the servlet name. And so here, instead of passing servlet class, what I'm trying to pass. So here I'm passing a JSP file. Okay, JSP file. And in JSP file, I should pass the path. So where is this path? / with config. Config again. What is that file name? That is the config file.jsp. Config file.jsp. Okay. And now config. See, what is this for? Config, that is a folder name. Where is it? This folder name. Okay. And inside this folder, yes, we have config file.jsp. So I pass the JSP file path. Okay, so here actually we don't need any solid mapping, right? So for this, I'm gonna pass init param. Okay, this is inside solid, no? Init param. Okay, and inside this init param name. So what is the param name? Let's take okay, let's take it as a my param or my parameter, and I'm going to initialize. I'm going to assign value for it. Okay, so param value. So value I'm passing here as an ExcelR. Okay, right. So then we have to close this init param and solve it. Okay, so same way, if you want to make any parameters as globally, okay, as a global, so actually here I can replace this, I can replace this as ExcelR Java class. Okay, so now let's go ahead with the above, servlet, and let's take context param and param name. So param name as, let me take, okay, param. This is the param, and so here param value as ExcelR. Okay, fine. And now, I'm trying to access this parameter along with the value. So how is it possible? That's with the help of config object. Okay, so let's go to that, config file.jsp. So in this, config file.jsp, let's take scriptlet. So we have now we have gone through this scriptlets in last session, right? So here in scriptlet, let me call string. Let me declare one string variable. String. String. Let's take p equals to config object. Config object dot get init parameter. Okay, so what is the parameter name? It is my param. Right, so it's a my param. So let's pass inside, one, sorry. Okay, let me open from here. So here within double quotes, I'm passing this my param. Fine. And now we have to, we have to print, or we can print that value. I mean, initialize the parameter for a specific solid, or we can say local, parameter. So here to print value or the, scriptlet, we use out.println, right? Out object with a print method. And right, so here my param value reading from web.xml. Okay, so along with the value plus, so what is it? P, and end with semicolon. Okay, so now let's run this. It is reading null. Let me check why it is reading null. Is it because of spaces? No, but still let me check. Everything is fine. So config dot get init parameter, and what is the parameter name I had given here? My param only. Okay, so did I missed anything here? It is not returning the value. It's returning it as an null. So anything is missed. Let me try to pass mapping as well. Okay. So let name as config demo. Actually, we don't need to create a servlet class, but let's so slash URL pattern as slash config demo. So let's see now at least. Yes, so after mapping, after passing servlet mapping, it's returning. Hope it is clear about servlet config. Any queries on this? So all these instances are created, once by web container. Okay, so now we'll see this for application in the sense, servlet context interface we have learned in we have done with the servlet, right? So same way here with the application. Okay, so now anyhow I have declared here what I declared, so context param, a global parameter, right? And now what I'll do, I'll just go to I'll create one application. This is for the application as context here I'm going to create it as a context. And now let's get into this, so let's write that. So this is a scriptlet. Again, I'm going to declare one string variable as, I'm declaring it as a global equals to, so application, application dot get init param, and param name is param only, right? Yes, so parameter name, I had given it as a param. Okay, so now let's go to context. Actually, I should return here as an application. Let me rename, because the context is not there in JSP. So it's application. Okay. Why is this? Close all. Okay. So now open this file. Okay, this is for the rename, right? So let me rename it. Okay, so now let's get into this and write end with semicolon. So here it is, param. And now that param value we have to print out. Okay, so either we can print it by scriptlet tag, or we can print it by expression as well. Okay, so out dot print within double quotes, global value, or global value of application large application implicit object. Okay, so here after this, double quotes plus what is it, global, and end with semicolon. Okay, so now let me run. I have not defined, I have already defined this context parameters. So now I don't want to, define it again. What happened? Right. So now let's go to this application.jsp, and now we'll run this. Right. So ExcelR solutions. So the the values which I passed for this parameter. So here, please observe and right. So value I've assigned here as an ExcelR solution. Hope it is clear, guys. Any questions on this? Okay, so if no questions, let's continue with other objects. So let me give you one more example or activity for session object. Okay, so I'm going to talk about session object. Close all. So let me create session folder. Okay, session. So when we talk about a session, yes, session object. So it's a object of type HTTP session interface, right? And of course, the Java developers, they can use this object to set or get or remove any attribute, of session information or a particular user. Okay, so now we'll see one simple activity for this. So definitely, if it is an session, so we need to have a user, right? So for this, um let me create one login page. Let's go to this session only. So I have created one HTML file. This is for login page. Okay. So here form. So action, let's take session one dot JSP. Okay. And now inside this form tag, um, let's take it as a name. So here in this input, input type equals to text, and it's not value, it's name equals to, so basically it is username. We can give anything, that's not an issue. So I'm using break tag. Okay, and right, so password is not that necessary, but still, so password input input type equals to text. It's not text, it's password. Okay, and name equals to, uh, let's take it as a BSW, and this with the break, and now finally button. Okay, so input type is submit, and the value equals to, so let's take it as a login. Okay, so this is a form tag as we have already aware of it, right? So now let's go to get the parameters. So now get into this, and what is that file name I had given here as session one, right? Okay, session one. And now, so I'm taking again scripting, scriptlet tag. In the scriptlet tag, what I'll do, I'll request parameter. Okay, string name equals to uh, request dot get parameter, right? So within double quotes, I have to pass that parameter name as you name, right? And now, so if needed, we can print this to browser, right? So out dot mm, out dot print. So here username, come to ExcelR. Okay, along with the username. So what is that? It's just a name. Okay, so now I printed, and now please observe session object. Okay, so this is same as HTTP servlet interface in servlet. Fine. And now I'm calling session object session dot set attribute. I'm setting attribute, and attribute name is let's take mm, let's take I'm taking it as a client, as a name. Okay, for this client, either can be client or user. Okay, and I'm passing value. So what value, which username? So it is the parameter, it's just a name, right? And I'm passing name here and with semicolon. Okay, and now, So this parameters. So basically session is what, if when we are, sending or submitting request, for multiple times, so the data needs to be submit, right? So now for the first time I submitted my, data I requested, and the same data needs to be sent for another request. Okay. So for that, let's take hyperlink, you know, h reference, tag equals to session 2. Okay, so I had given it as a session 2 dot JSP. Okay, and now here, so let's take click here, anchor tag. Uh, I just want to know. Nothing. This is fine, right? Everything I'm passing in. Let me give a break. Break will not work here. Multiple annotations found at this line. So what is that multiple annotation? Anchor tag with the h reference and value, and yes, everything is fine. Still why it is. Let me take another scriptlet and pass it. No, it's not taking actually. Okay, let me try. It's not working actually. Let me create a session 2. Session 2.jsp. So here in session 2.jsp, just get that name and get that attribute and just try to print. But still I have an error in session 1 for this anchor tag. Okay. Right. String name equals to string dot session dot get attribute, and what is that attribute? So I had given it as a client, right? So this client I'm going to print. Okay, so print and hello session 2 uh, welcomes you. Okay. So here, I should print that name. It's with the plus symbol. Okay. So now it's done. Now let's go to this HTML file and see whether it will work or not, because we have an error in session 1 file. Okay, so let's take Neha. Right, so we have an error here. Unable to compile, class for JSP. Line number 13. An error occurred at line number 16. So this one, anchor tag. But this is the only one way to, send request. Um, okay, actually, the wrong thing is, right? Okay. So this H reference tag. So I try to return outside of the scriptlet. Fine. Now let's see. Actually, even if needed, even we can, we can get ID also. Okay, let's see for the first page. So this is the first page, right? And now, right? So setting attribute, and we'll try to get attribute as well. So here, session dot, not dot. Let's take session ID. Okay. So for this, again, I'm using scriptlet. Mm. So I'm taking it as a, so I'm trying to print session ID, nothing else. Okay. So for this, uh, right now we'll take that session object, session dot get ID. Okay. So I try to get the ID. right? So now again in the second session also, we can get that ID and we can print it. So here on the same line, I know, same. Okay, so let's print here. This is scriptlet, right? So out dot print session ID. Okay, so here plus session dot get ID. Okay, so now let's go to this HTML file. So I entered username and password. Session ID is not printing here. What happened? Right. So actually inside scriptlet, we have to write out.println, but I forgot to write. So now I'm using expression to print that. So now let's go to the okay. So now I just modified that session one file. So I'll refresh this page and we'll check. So hope you guys can see this session ID. I just refreshed, I have not redeployed, right? And now let me click on, click here button. So you guys can see here. So same session ID, right? And the message. So let's go to session 2 and where is it? Before printing. So let's take break tag if needed one more. Okay, so now go to this file and click on refresh button. So hope it's clear, guys. It's this is about session object. So we do have one more, that is a exception. So that will be explained after learning page directive. Any questions on this? No reply. Fine then. So we'll continue with, directives. Right. So JSP directives. And the main purpose of this directives, which is used for, giving messages, or it gives messages to the browser or to the web container, that how to translate, how to translate JSP page into a specific servlet file. Okay. And yes, these JSP directives are going to be used to give special instructions to a container for translation of JSP to your servlet code, because servlet JSP file is going to be converted to, right, servlet file, right? So in the life cycle, in the JSP lifecycle phase, JSP has to be converted to servlet, which is, translation phase. And at that time, these directives give some instructions to the container how to handle, certain aspects of that particular page. Okay. And right, so these directives can have many attributes by separated with a comma. Okay, so let me show you the types of, let me give you the types of directives. So there are three types of directives. One is page directive, include, and taglib. Okay, three types of directives: page, include, taglib. uh, Page directive, basically it's for describing a page, current page. Okay, and include directive, uh, what is the use of include directive? The purpose is if we want to include the content of another page in an existing page. Okay, that is include directive. And taglib directive, so one usage is we can create user defined tags by taglib directive. And another usage, we can use the predefined libraries with the help of this taglib directive. Okay, and all these directives starts with angular braces with the percentage symbol along with the @ symbol. Okay, so you guys can observe here with the syntax of directives. Okay, fine. So here I have description about each directive along with the attributes, right? So this page directive defines attributes that apply to an entire page, entire JSP page. And yes, of course, it's used for defining page dependent attributes. So such as, scripting language, error pages, buffer requirements, input, output, etc. So we have so many, attributes. So we'll see one by one. Okay. And also it's used for providing instructions to a container that pertains, to a current page. Okay. So in general, so to describe, to provide description about that particular page, so we can use this page directives. And here you can see the attributes of page directive. So what are those attributes? We have an import, we have content type, extends, info, buffer, language, is, expression language, el, ignored, is, thread safe, auto flash, session, page encoding, error page, and is error page. Okay, so basically import, you know uh, it acts, it works as a Java import. Okay, if you want to utilize or if you want to use any particular component like class or interface or any methods, so we can use those components by using this import attribute of page directive. Content type, yes, to define uh, what kind of outcome we are going to give to the client or to the user. So that's going to be passed with the help of this content type. So we'll set in which type we are going to return, either it is HTML or XML or uh, Excel, PDF format. So we have many different types, right? So we can set that by using this content type attribute of this page directive. And extends, okay, so as usual, if we want to extend any um, classes or any interfaces, then we can use this. So info, right, if needed to get any information about any resource, so we can use this info attribute. And buffer, this is related to the IO part. Okay, so buffer basically to store data temporarily. And language, of course, there are different types of language, but currently when we talk about JSP, what we are learning right now, so as usual, basically I use language as a Java. But you know in real time, when you work with the page directives, so we may needed to get another other languages like .NET or C or C++. Okay, in such cases, you know we have to specify which language we are using. So that's with the help of this language attribute, right? So is, expression language, ignored. Okay, so basically we we pass true or false. True or false for this is el ignored and is thread safe, auto flash, session, page encoding. For these, we pass true or false. Okay, true means yes, they can use it. False, so they don't need to use that particular component. Okay, so right, we'll see examples on okay, I'll give you example because these are all on basis of requirement. We are not going to use all those things. Okay, but I'll give you simple examples. Example for this error page and is error page. So as I told you, exception. So we have seen the what is it, implicit object, but I've not explained. I've not given activity for that exception. Why? Because I thought of explaining page directive, and then we have to go for this um, exception. So is if we wants to handle exceptions in uh, JSP, we must use this error page and is error page attributes of page directive compulsory. Okay. uh, yes, so here are the descriptions. So import, so most use attribute in page directive, and basically it's used for telling or providing information to the container to import other Java classes or interfaces or enums and so on. Okay, content type, right? So specifically for defining character encoding scheme. And right, so default schema, sorry, content type will be text slash HTML with a standard character set ISO with the 885 91 ash, sorry, 5.1, right? So and then info. So as said, trace basically it's for defining string which can be accessed by solid info, and session, right? To maintain user data, we can use this session object. Just now we have seen uh, one activity for this, right? And even we can enable this session, or we can disable, in the sense either you can maintain or you may not. So that is by passing true or false value. Okay, is thread safe. So thread safe, when we call it as a thread safe, when any single uh, yes, a single thread is going to access the resource at the same time, right? So no, not more than one thread is going to be access the resource at same time. So that is thread safe. So when we can depends. So okay, if it is based on requirement, we can pass true or false. So if we want to make it as a thread safe, then pass it true. If not, pass it false. Okay. Auto flush, yes. So auto flush, which is basically clearing the buffer. Okay, automatically clearing the buffer, we can use this auto flush. But if you don't want to flash it automatically, then you can go ahead with a false. What it said, the second point. So if the value is set to false, the buffer will not be flushed automatically, right? And if it is if it's full, we will get an exception. Okay, so when the buffer is none, then so the false is illegitimate and there is no buffering, so it gets flushed automatically. So by default it's a kind of true. So is error page and error page. As I said, to handle exceptions in JSP, we are going to use this is error page and error page attributes of page directives. Okay, so please observe the syntax. Syntax for the is error page. One second. Right, so this one. Okay, so here in is error page, in case if your particular existing page is having error, suppose if it is having error, then we can pass true. It's not we must pass true. Okay, so page and its attribute is error page equals to true. So if if you don't want to handle exceptions, then you can pass directly as a false. And and you are going to define one more page where you're going to handle that exception. Okay, where you're going to handle that exception. Okay, so that in that exception, in that another page, we must pass error page is equals to the page name where we are going to handle that exception. Okay, so we'll say this with one activity so that you people can get it clear. Okay, so now let's move ahead. Let me create one project for directives. Okay, so this is for the directives. Uh, Let me create one, one JSP file, page directive. Okay, so whenever we create JSP file, by default that file starts with a page directive. So page directive, how angular braces with the percentage symbol at the rate, at the rate symbol along with the page, and its attributes. So please observe the attributes. So we have language, we have content type, we have page encoding, you know. So along with this, we can pass, uh, the attributes which is required for this current page. Okay. So first of all, let me add the jar file. Okay. Let me give you one simple example for import. So what I'll do here, um, I'll use this page directive. Please observe inside body tag. What I'll do here, uh, at the rate symbol at page. So here I'm using import. Okay. So import equals to, I'm trying to import, um, okay. So I'm trying to import, util package. Okay. Import java dot util dot star. Okay. And I'm trying to print date. Okay, so how do we print date? So let's take date and its object equals to new date. Okay, if needed you can print here as our dot print ln. It's not print ln, sorry, print. Okay, so within double quotes, today's date is. Okay, so this is just a simple example for your import. Actually here directly I can import the date class. but I used a star so that we can use any, any type. It's not type, any component. Either it can be a class or, uh, interface or methods. Not methods, interfaces and classes and enums. Okay, so the components which are predefined or already defined is in this package, so we can use it. Okay, so I'm running this. It is not displayed because I didn't. So this is just a declaration of variables. I have not printed, right? Uh, let's take out.println here itself. Out.print. Okay, so no need. So let me take it as a D and with semicolon. Hope it is clear, guys. So it's printing. Why it is printing out.println as well? Small modification. Actually, I don't need to let's go and refresh. Hope it's clear, guys. So this is how we can use import. Okay. Let's see for one more, one more directive. Not directive, one more, attribute of page directive. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take one more, activity, that's a page directive, content type. Okay, so let me create one more, JSP file, that is content type. So here in the content type, so directly I'm using, I'm just trying to print some data to the, data depends on the, format. Okay, so now we are familiar with the text slash HTML. No? So now I'll take another format. Page. Content type, and here content type, what I'll do, I'll use application slash, this is just a format, vnt dot ms excel And I'm writing here, in that as hello page directive. Let's see now. Okay. So this is a format, which I used. So let's see. Error here. Mm, just a minute, huh? Okay. Let's see. So let me pass here as web content. Something is wrong. Line number 10, I guess the format which I passed. Okay. So I don't want to waste the time. So let me check this later. And for now, I'll just move because, so the correct type, I guess, this file has to be there in our system. But here I don't have this, file. But still I created in this directive, but it's not referring. Uh, Let me check by passing forward slash and let me deploy class not found. Okay, I will check this. For now, let me continue with another one that is exception handling. Exception, exception in JSP. Okay, so now let's create one file. Okay, one JSP file. So let me take, you know, file name is exception, exception demo. And here what I'll do, I'll just write, you know, uh, as I said. So here I'm going to, write some logic. So logic which might throw you an exception. Okay, so for that, um, string name equals to, let's take null. Okay, and then so out dot print So out.print, inside print, what I'll do, I'll just call name dot length. So I'm calling this method name dot length. So I'm just trying to find the length of a string which is empty, which is null, not empty. Okay. Uh, so now, so when I just actually when we run this, it will give you exception because our string variable is null. It's not empty, it is null, right? So when we are trying to read, a string which is null, obviously, it returns exception, right? So here to handle this, we have to pass page directive along with the error page. Error page is equals to the page name where we are going to handle that exception. Okay, so let me create one more file, one more JSP file. So let's take that file as an handle exception, handle exception. Okay, let copy this and finish. Okay, and here in this, so this is a page where I'm going to handle that exception. Okay, so for that I have to pass, we have to pass first. Let's go to that previous page and sorry, exception demo, and here let me define that page directive. So one more page directive I'm defining. Okay, at page let us name, what is that attributes, error page. Okay, error page is equals to the page where we are going to handle that exception. We must pass the page name. Okay, inside this error page attribute, we must pass the page name where we are going to handle that exception. Fine. And now go to that handle exception page, and here include that page directive again, whether you're handling exception in this page or not, by passing true or false. Okay, so now either you can pass inside body or you can pass above your directly you can pass here in the first line itself, but still, so I'm passing in the next line. So page directive page is error page. Okay, is error page equals to true. Hope it is clear, guys. And now what I'll do, I'll write my I'll handle my exception. Okay. So actually, the default value is false. So we can pass true when you're handling exception. Okay. So now let me take h1. Okay, h1 along with the font. So font color equals to, let's take red because it's related to exception, right? Okay, so now red I passed, exception, exception through. Okay, so how do we handle? So this is scriptlet again. Okay, so equal to exception. So this is an object to handle exception in JSP, implicit object. So we don't need to create any objects for these classes. We can just, directly call those. Okay. So now, right. So if we want to write something here, we can write it. Right. So what I can write here, right? Again, correct these errors and proceed. Correct the error and proceed. Okay. So now let's go to invalid location. Huh? Why? This is inside body only, no? Because, okay. Fine then. So now let me run this. When I deploy this, so the control will reach us to the another page where something is wrong from my end. Let me try to pass inside body tag and check. Is there a page? It's a handle exception.jsp, correct? And is error page equals to true? What else? Exception thrown with null. Right. So actually we should run this handle exception page, not that exception, which is redirecting to another page. Okay, so when I run this, so it's actually handling exception. So how it is handling exception? By reading this is error page equals to true. Okay. Actually logic should be, so when we run this exception demo, it has to redirect it to this page and it has to run. But when I run this, it's not reaching this file. Why is it so? 1 minute. Let me check what is the problem. It says it is not reaching. What else is a problem? Fine. I will check this. We don't have any errors. Okay. But this exception is handling in this handle exception directly because directly including that message as an exception thrown with null. Let me check. Let me run this again once and check. Hmm. But basically, for handling exception, just we use this exception object, this one. Okay. So how, simply by passing this ExcelR page equals to true, and here, right, exception through. Let me remove, let me comment this line. Okay, so this is how, we can handle exception. Let me pass here, exception occurred. Okay. So even for this, it says null. Fine. So I'll check this. Okay. I'll check for this, error page and is error page both. Code, everything is fine, but the only redirection, redirection, it's not, redirecting to another page. I mean, to this page where it is handling. Okay. So we'll move to another, concept, that is directives. Directives in the sense, in directive we have seen about, we are in page directive. Now we'll see, we'll look into include directive. Include directive. So what is the use of include directive? Can anyone? What's the use of include directive? Why I'm asking question, because we have seen the request dispatcher servlet. Request dispatcher in servlet. So that same concept here with include directive. Basically, include method, is for including content of another resource in the same page, right? So same way here, this include directive is basically used for including the content of any other resources. Okay, so that resources might be HTML or JSP, or it can be a servlet, right? So yes, this include directive, which includes original content of that included resource at, when at translation time. Always it happens at translation time. Okay. So what is the benefit? What is the benefit of this include? So just a kind of code reusability. So there is nothing much about this. So code reusability is a one usage of this include directive. Okay. Um, let's have one simple example for this include directive. Let me create one class, not class, JSP for this. This is for the directives as exceptions. It's not exception, actually it is a page directive, but here I'm including include. Let me create a folder as include directive. Okay. Let's create one login page. Um, okay, so this is include dot. Okay, fine. Okay, so this is my JSP page, especially for passing include page. Okay. So here what happens? Let me write, statement out dot print. Okay, this is JSP now. Out dot print. So in print. mm, Let me write it as an include directive. Okay. So now let me pass this include directive. So I have to end with semicolon. So now what I'll do, I'm taking include directive. Okay. Uh, as usual, add symbols with the include. Okay. So include equals to, um, let's say it as an welcome, welcome dot JSP. Mm. So this is wrong because here we must use a file attribute. Okay, so why it is an error? Okay, it says it is not found in that path. So what I'll do, I'll just create, I'll create welcome.jsp file. Okay, welcome.jsp. So here, I'm gonna print this is equal welcome to okay. So within double quotes, I have written welcome to include directive. Along with the, let me print the date. Okay. So let me print today's, date as the, current date. So for this, let's take it as, right, again a scriptlet. Expression I'm taking, fine. So along with that expression, let's take date or time. We can print date as well as the time. So for date, date D equals to new date, new date. Okay, so but here is an error. So let me import that. Import java dot util dot date. Okay, so now this error is gone. And Let me print this date. So here out dot print. So in out dot print, date is, it's a D. It's D in the sense plus with variable. So now let me take, time. Okay. So to print time specifically, mm, expression I'm using. So here, what is it? Expression java dot util dot calendar. So I'm taking calendar class. Okay, calendar dot get instance. I'm calling get instance for the calendar, along with the get instance. So we can call, we can call the current, time. So like, actually we can call any of the method, but yes. So I'm trying to call get time, and if needed, time zone also. So now I'll be printing, actually we have to print this. Sorry, we have to run this, deploy this, include, first page. So I'm running this. Include directive welcomes. Break tag. Let's go to welcome. Uh, time. For time again, I had to, modify this page. So this one. Okay, within double quotes. Okay. What happened? Fine, then let's go to that file and refresh it. Hope it's clear, guys, about include directives. So in this include JSP file, I just included this welcome file. Okay, so let me show you this, URL. Okay, so you people can see, the control isn't include.jsp only, but it's included the content of welcome JSP file, right? Any questions on this? Include directive. Basically, include directive is for including the content of any other resource. So that resource can be a JSP, HTML, or can be a servlet. No questions. Okay. Uh, 1 second. Let me check the chat box. Okay, fine then. If no questions, let's continue with another directive, that is Taglib directive. Okay, so Taglib directive basically used for creating custom tags, and also uh, it provides, it provides a predefined. We can use this Taglib directive for using library files. So there are, there are different predefined library files. So we can use those, predefined library files with the help of this Taglib, Taglib directive. Okay. We'll see one sample, activity for this custom tag. Custom tag. Yes, custom tag it is. Okay. So now actually I printed date. Here I printed date, right? So I'll take the date as a tag. I'm going to define one date tag. Okay. So please observe how will I, define that. Directives. So let's take here as taglib. Okay, taglib. Okay, so if you want to define your own tag, then we must, we must have one file with the extension TDL. Okay, so we need to have one taglib directive extension. Okay, so we need to define one. It's not TDL, it's a TLD tag. Okay, sorry, TLD extension. So we have to define one custom tag TLD file where you define your tag like your XML file. Okay. So now we'll take, let us take one simple example. First of all, let us define one taglib. Okay. So let me go with a sequence. Sequence in the sense, let's go to our SRC. Okay. So here in this SRC, let us create one package. Com dot com dot taglib dot custom. So this is, assume that this is my package. I have created com.taglib.custom. So this is for the custom tag. And now I'm going to create one class. Okay. I'm going to create a class. Let me take class name as, my custom tag. So this is my, this is the name of the custom tag. I'm sorry, a name of the class, not a custom tag. Okay, so here, if you want to define, any of the, sorry, if you want to get the time, so we must extend a concept of tag support, tag support interface. So here, let me extend this, extends So here we have tags support, right? So this tag support class, it provides one method here specifically. What is this? Right, so that that method is do start tag. It is gone. Do start tag. Okay, so this is for mm, generating or we can say specifically for creating a stack or defining a stack. So we are using do start tag, and inside this let's pass the logic which we needed. So what I said, this is for creating a custom tag as date tag, right? For this, so I'm going to write JSP writer class. Actually, I'm going to create one object for writing data. Okay, so for that JSP writer, like our print writer. Okay, print writer in servlets. So JSP writer and its object. Okay, so let's take it as an out equals to page context. Okay, so this is how we instantiate a writer object in JSP. So now I'm using try block. Inside try block, so I'm creating date object. D equals to new date. Sorry. For this actually we have to import. So what we have to import? Util package. Okay. Let me take date util dot star. Okay. And so I'm taking again, to define format of this date. Okay. So for this we have a class called uh, simple date format. Right, simple date format, and its object as simple date format. I'm taking it as object as an SDF. Okay, equals to new date format. So with the pattern. Okay, so now we can define the pattern which is required for us. So I'm taking it as a date hyphen. It's capital letters. Fine, that is fine. So date, month, and year. Okay. So now let's go ahead. So what we have to do, we have to print this date, this format, uh, this date format with the time. I'll print with time. Okay. So as usual, out dot print, out dot print. Double quotes is not needed because we are printing object. So simple date format dot. So I'm passing format. So inside this format, what is that object? Date as a D dot get. So here you can pass anything, anything as get class, get date, get day, hours, minutes, month, seconds, and get time. Okay, time zone, offset, and year also. So what I'll do, I'll pass get time. Okay, get time. So it's done. It's done in the sense my printing format is done. Now let's take catch block. So catch block exception. So let's take E. Fine. And finally, we are going to return body type. Okay. So after printing all this thing, so I'll say that skip this body type. Okay. So we have skip body, in the sense it returns integer data, right? Because the return type for this method is integer, so it returns integer value. Hope it is clear, guys. This method, I mean method, not method, this class declaration. Why this serialized version? Okay, so now that warning message is gone, so now what we have to do, we have to define TLD tag, sorry, TLD file. Okay, so format which we wanted to display along with the date, it is done. Defining that format is done. So now we'll define TLD file. So that TLD file must be placed inside your web.xml, sorry, web.inf, not web.xml, inside your web.inf. Okay, so now right click on this file, I mean the folder, and yes, select as a new and generate it as a file. And here extension we must pass file name with a TLD. Okay. So now let's take this as what is it? Custom tag dot TLD. Okay. So I'm going to define this TLD file. So let's click on finish. And here, one second, because it should be a XML file. Let me check, is there any possibility to create TLD file directly? Okay. So it is done. Now let me define Taglib. So let me define Taglib. So inside this Taglib, I'm going to define Taglib version. I exactly forgot the version of the Taglib. Taglib version. Okay, so basically it is it was 1.0, so I'll take that only. It's long back. And I'm taking JSP version. Okay. Is there an option to know the version? Fine. JSP iPhone version. Okay, and here I'm taking 1.2 as version. I have to spend bit, a little time for checking these versions. So I'm taking, the thing which I remember. So the version which I remember, and short name. Okay, so I'm going to define short name. Um, Short hyphen name. Okay, any name, and this is not that important. Okay, short name for this is simple, and I'm going to pass URI. Okay, so for this URI, actually we can pass anything, but basically, I used to take the default one as HTTP colon tomcat dot apache dot org slash, here we can pass anything, so I'll pass it as an example for Taglib. Okay, example for Taglib. This is a URI. Fine. And now I'm going to define the tag. So now I'm going to define the tag with the help of tag only. And inside this tag, I'm going to pass tag name of the tag. Okay. Name of the tag is, let me take, today. Fine. And now let's take tag class. Okay, so it should be tag class. Okay, and tag class from where it is, so which is defined inside this package, so that is com dot taglib dot custom custom dot what is the class name, my custom tag. Okay, this is a tag name. Fine. So now we'll go to create JSP file. Where is the taglib? Inside this taglib, folder. So let's create a file name is test custom tag. Okay, so here inside this, let's take, actually either you can pass URI directly, or you can pass URI as the folder name, sorry, not folder, the file path where you have this custom TLD. Okay, so what I'll do, inside this body tag, let me show you in both ways. So here at taglib URI. So as I said, we can mention the path URI equals to right / with webinf webinf. Okay, webinf / what is the file name here? Custom tag dot tld. Custom dot tag tld and prefix. And for this file, we have to define the prefix. So prefix equals to this is for the custom tag, no? So I'll take C. Okay, C or anything, or else let me take it as a date instead of date. Okay, my date. Okay, this is the prefix which is I defined. Fine. And now let's get inside and call the tag. Okay. So let's take h1. Okay, h2. And inside this, I'm calling, which is the tag name here inside Taglib, which I defined, that is today now. So how will I call? Let's go to this file. Taglib, right? So let's go to this file, and here, what is the prefix? This is my date dot c. Automatically, it's giving, it's providing, it's generating the tag. Hope it is clear, guys. I should run this and I have to check. Let's hope on this to run this successfully without any errors. Oh, good. So it's printing today's date. Let me explain the flow. When I run this, when I deploy this JSP file, so first it calls this tag, custom tag. Okay, my date is the prefix which I passed, and today is the date. Today is the tag name which is defined inside this TLD file. Okay, and now the control, it searches for the TLD file which is present in this webinf. Let's go to this webinf, and now what happens? So it calls a tag, and yes, depending on the tag, it reaches to the tag class. Okay, now the control reaches to this class by reading this package. So now it reaches to this class with this package, and it performs a logic, it returns, or it will provide this service which is written inside this particular class. So what actually we are doing, we are just returning, date. Okay, we are returning date by passing, by instantiating date class, and by passing date format. Okay, and then yes, we are returning date format, and yes, after returning this, we are just skipping by, basically it's returning integer value. Okay, so that value will be returned to this tag, this tag, where is it, TLD file, this tag, and this will be returned to UI, to the JSP. So that was the, that is a value it is printing. Hope it's clear. So this is how we can create our own tags. Any questions on this? But in future classes, in further classes, we will be using this Taglib, but not for creating custom tags, for predefined tags. So there are a few predefined tags. So we'll we will learn all those predefined tags. So that is actually JSTL. Fine then. So hope it is clear about Taglib directive. So Taglib directive can be used for creating custom tags, remember. Okay, in that case, we have to define this TLD file. Okay, and then yes, depending on that, we have to define the class, and the class can return value to this TLD, and the TLD tag is going to be represented in UI. This is how this Taglib will work. Fine then. So we'll wind up the session. If any queries, drop a message in chat window. Okay. Thank you all.